Hey now, it's DFO Rundown Insider Edition, and we're together yet again at the Stanley Cup Final. You know who's playing. It's the Carolina Hurricanes, and it's the Vegas Golden Knights, and we are a presentation of Bet365. Guess what, Dave? If your team goes up 3 goals, you get 8. It is that simple. Bet365 must be 19 to play. Please play responsibly. Lots of stuff going on away from the ice. In fact, a lot of it, Dave, is behind the bench. You got 2 really good coaches here coaching good teams, Ron Tortorella and Rod Brind'Amour, obviously the Hurricanes and the Vegas Golden Knights. But let's start in Toronto. And it's interesting because the names that you hear and are hearing, Patrick Waugh, Peter Laviolette, or Dallas Eakins was in town, and I heard it just wasn't for that Marlies game he got photoshopped at.
No, it
wasn't a Photoshop. He was there.
Yes, him next to Berkey on Monday. Well, he also interviewed with the Toronto Maple Leafs for the head coaching position, according to multiple sources. So add Dallas Eakins officially to the list of candidates in the mix for the job in Toronto. You mentioned Patrick Waugh. The Leafs got permission from the Islanders to speak to him. So that's already occurred. Laviolette's name's out there. We've heard others. We've heard back and forth on Jay Woodcroft. I believe they've spoken in some capacity. I don't believe he's part of the current process. I think he's going, or not going somewhere else. I think he's involved in another team. We'll touch on that in a second. But there are other candidates certainly that are being discussed. The Leafs have talked on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. I assume they're going to continue the rest of the week with these interviews and then start to narrow things down.
The Toronto Maple Leafs one is fascinating, but Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid need a new coach as well. And it's a pretty important job, that one, just given all these circumstances that could be taking place with that team. What are the Oilers going to do? Obviously, Woodcroft isn't going there.
No, and there are some people in the Oilers organization who think they jumped the gun on making that coaching change, although they brought in Knobloch and they went to 2 straight cups.
Yeah.
So it's almost fully worked out for them. Knobloch, by the way, not interested in a new job at the moment. He's going to take some time before he explores his options. And why wouldn't he? He's going to sit at home and collect up to $9 million. So, so why not?
Pretty good deal.
Although I'm sure the Oilers wouldn't mind if he went somewhere else.
Yeah.
We're on the books for it, but well, you made the decision. Good for you. They're going to look to see who else they can bring in. It's clear as day that they want Bruce Cassidy.
Yeah.
Team somewhere back there doesn't want that to happen. At least they're still saying not now because the playoffs are ongoing. It'll be really interesting if they continue this after the playoffs, regardless of what happens with this group. But he's their guy. He's the guy they want. And they're willing to pay him a very handsome salary and a term contract, I believe, around 5 years in order to do that.
Brick Talking got 5 times 5. You got to think Bruce Cassidy's at least 5 times 6.
Yeah.
Like that's $30 million total.
That's the ballpark. You're right. I think that's what it's going to come down to if they ever get permission to make that happen.
For what it's worth, I think it will happen.
I'm leaning in that. I honestly,
I do.
I'm leaning there. I keep teetering.
I think it'll happen
because these guys are sneaky back there.
I think it'll happen.
So we'll see. But in the event somehow it doesn't, we know they've done their due diligence and try to look to see what other options are available. Craig Berube and Lavi and a few others that are out there.
Los Angeles Kings down to 2, or
sounds like it. Okay. It seems like it. And let's bring Jay Woodcroft back into the mix. He's interviewed for a role with the LA Kings, and it sounds like it's him or DJ Smith who's going to get the gig. And I wonder about Toronto and DJ Smith if they go in that direction. If he's not, I know they had that before. He was behind the bench before. But anyway, LA. Yes, it sounds like it's Woody and it's DJ, and they've got to make that determination. We know we touched on this a couple weeks ago that Scott Laughton, who's a pending free agent, was curious to see who the next head coach is going to be. That's going to play a factor in whether or not he re-signs with the LA Kings. But sounds like things have gone well with Woodcroft. Obviously, there's a relationship there with Ken Holland, back from Edmonton. And then, of course, there's the current relationship they have with DJ Smith. And the kind of thought process with keeping DJ around, this is different than Jim Hillard. When he had the interim, then they made him full-time coach. When DJ Smith came in, you started to see guys like Byfield get going. And internally, they're wondering, well, if he sticks around, is that going to continue to be a good thing for Quentin Byfield, who is, by default right now, their number 1 center?
Yeah.
He hasn't played like that. He played better last season, but he hasn't solidified that league-wide number 1 role yet. So do they look at that? Other players played well under DJ as well. As they test everything out there, that's great. So we'll see kind of, what happens, but it sounds like LA is getting close, getting clicking.
So you're not just blowing smoke?
No, well done.
There you go.
Well done. Not bad. No.
Behind the bench is fascinating because these jobs are eventually going to get filled. Do you think that they will be filled before the draft?
It sounds like everybody wants that to happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, Edmonton, obviously, again, they got to wait. Let's figure out what the hell's going on there. But yeah, it looks like LA, like I said, is getting close to the finish line. And John Chaika, the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, indicated after they let Berube go, that perfect world, they get somebody before the draft. Now, it's not necessarily necessary because, it's not like he's involved in the decision process.
It's not that hard of a decision. You're picking number one overall.
Well, I mean, outside of the first round, better draft, Gavin. It sounds like it anyway. But the other guys on the team, that's where, it's more on the free agent side is what I'm trying to say. Like the free agents and other guys that are contemplating maybe waiving their no movement clause or something like that, they want to know the coaches. They want to know what the system is. So that's important. It does sound like this month, and I would imagine, or if it's going to be before the draft, that most of these teams make their decisions and hire their new head coach, and also have to figure out Nashville.
Yeah, the Predators one is so fascinating because Chris MacFarland goes there and you got a long-term contract.
Yeah.
And I don't think he got a contract to turn it around. I think that Nick Saban, I always go back to the way that he preaches. I watch a lot of college game day. I followed the Alabama Crimson Tide for a long time. Yeah. It's about building successful organizations. You can't give them a 3-year deal and expect them to turn it around and then be competitive and want to compete right then.
Right.
So you give them that deal, you give them that security, you say, okay, you know what? Let's leave you alone now and let's just let you go to work.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be different if they brought him in strictly as general manager.
Yeah.
But it's president and GM. That's what we've been talking about from the get-go, that was the type of role that they wanted. And going back to your point about Nick Saban and some of the other minority owners, this is more than an exclusive hockey decision. This is the whole organization all-encompassing that he's going to oversee. And that's what they wanted. They wanted somebody that's going to oversee the entire organization and dictate what's happening on and off the ice. So to give him that type of security makes a lot of sense because it's not strictly a hockey decision. It's the business element as well. And who knows, in 3 years, he may say, no, I think I'm better suited for a president. I can handle all of this. We'll bring in a new GM. He's still under contract. So there's security there. And Nashville has to decide on Burnett. They have to decide on what they're doing with some of their players. This is a restructuring, not a full retool, not a rebuild. They feel they can be a competitive playoff team. They need the right guy to kind of put them in place.
Quickly, I will give the Colorado Avalanche a lot of credit in allowing Chris MacFarland to go and get a promotion and to a division, right?
Yeah.
He went to the same division. So that good on the Colorado Avalanche for letting him go and do that and explore different options. Okay, let's go to on the ice. You talked on it a couple weeks ago, I think, when we did it. You said you had something, but you wanted to make sure that you were good with it, involving the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens and this past trade deadline.
Excuse me. Yes.
He's getting choked up about it.
Yeah. I'm going to get choked out after this. Yeah. But so wanted to wait, obviously, out of respect. The Canadiens were still in the playoffs. They, before or after the trade deadline, and Kent Hughes alluded to this week when he spoke to the media, back at the trade deadline, he said, we had something big. It didn't work out. We're going to revisit it in the summer. And then he reiterated those comments this week when he said, yeah, we still hope to make that happen to visit it. Well, it was with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
So it was big.
It was big. It was Matthew Knies. They had an agreement in place between the Leafs and the Habs that would have sent Matthew Knies to Montreal. Zarkovsky was going the other way, along with another prospect and 2 first-round picks. That was the package that was agreed upon. There were some complications ahead of the deadline. It didn't get through, and they are going to presumably revisit it. This was under previous Leafs regime with Brad Treliving. Now John Chaika is there. Now, according to some reports, I think CJ put it out that they're willing to listen on anybody but Austin Matthews right now.
That's because Austin has to tell them if he's willing to listen to them.
That's the big part of it too.
Yeah.
And just on the Matthews thing, they're status quo. Yes, he still wants to win. He still wants to stay in Toronto. All that stuff. But this was the big one. This was the one that the Toronto Maple Leafs and Montreal Canadiens were working on. Matthew Knies to the Habs, Zarkovsky, and prospect. I don't know the other player. Well, transparency, I don't know. And 2 first-round picks. So a 4-prong return for Matthew Knies.
Obviously, that's big. It's going to be a lot to unpack, and obviously, when people see this, they're going to go nuts about it. But do you think that the Montreal Canadiens will go back under this new Leafs regime and try and revisit that?
I do.
Okay.
I absolutely do. Now, this isn't Brad. This is now Chayka.
Yeah.
That's part of the mix, and he can easily say, no, we're not doing that. So we'll see kind of how Kent Hughes approaches this. But again, he mentioned it this week that he plans to revisit it. He believes they can revisit this trade. Now that it's out there, maybe that changes things. But from what Chayka's looking to do, I mean, I like the return. And again, I don't know the second prospect, but Sarkovsky is supposed to be, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is supposed to be a stud, an absolute stud. I can also tell you and confirm, by the way, neither Michael Hage nor David Reinbacher were the other player in that deal.
Okay.
I do know that.
Sure.
But I would imagine the Canadiens will want to revisit this. I imagine that maybe Kent Hughes has already sent them note over to Chayka about this. That's my guess. I would have, as the new GM coming in, saying, hey, share with someone for this business. We need to talk about this. But it's going to be up to the new regime in Toronto as to whether or not they want to continue to pursue this.
From a Toronto Maple Leafs perspective, okay, so this deal was obviously agreed upon too before the draft, before the trade deadline, before they knew they got the first overall pick.
Yes.
How much does them getting that pick now, you're like, okay, we're going to get a stud winger no matter who we draft at number 1 overall. How much does that make it more, I guess not easier, but more expendable for you to be able to go and try and improve your roster?
Well, I mean, that depends on how they view, let's say for argument's sake, it is going to be Gavin McKenna.
Okay.
Then you view McKenna being as somebody that can play with Knies and presumably Matthews and have that as your top line? Or do you view it as, well, McKenna's going to be with Matthews no matter what. Sarkovsky's a hell of a prospect. And he's supposed to be coming over to Montreal. He's best friends with Ivan Demidov, so awkward. But if he comes over, plays the right side, if he's the prospect that people believe he's going to be, or the player that he's going to become, and you get 3 additional assets, including 2 first-round picks this year, and I don't know if it was next year or the year after, but you get 2 first-round picks and another very high-level prospect. Is it almost well, we're getting a good first line no matter what, and we're getting 3 additional assets. This is something we need to pursue. This is kind of what St. Louis was looking for Robert Thomas. Although with Montreal, I believe they wanted Hage as part of the mix. And these caliber players, Quinn Hughes, a 4-prong return. You got
basically 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, it's just more or less here. Although Sarkovsky was a second-round pick, but he's viewed as one of their top prospects.
Would that first-round pick, I don't know if you know this, would that first-round pick have been in this year's draft?
I believe, yes. I believe one of them was in this year's draft. And I was also...
So if they go back to it, they would have to have essentially pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously it may not happen. It might be a summer thing, but...
Yeah. Well, they could explore that after the fact as well. But the other thing I was told with Montreal is that they anticipate using their first-round pick in some capacity in order to better their current roster. So whether that's making this deal happen, I mean, now that it's out, maybe that changes things entirely. Sorry if that's the case, but we're doing our jobs.
It's in a lot of people off this week, David. Let's go to the Ottawa Senators. There's a lot there to unpack, and I'm sure people will, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it as this weekend and things continue to go on. But
speaking of Marcus Sedek, I piss people off in
Ottawa?
Yeah. We're not talking Brady. Relax.
No, we're not. We're talking their need for a defenseman.
Yes.
Right shot defenseman, preferably. I've heard that the Ottawa Senators wouldn't have a problem moving Jordan Spence.
Yeah, they've been a little disappointed this season in his performance. I know LA Kings are screaming that they let him go for a draft pick, but it hasn't really worked out in Ottawa. And he was somebody that they were listening on, or at least exploring moving ahead of the deadline. You're right. They want to upgrade that right side. They want to bring in a top 4 right now 1-2 kind of on that right side defenseman on that team that has. He's mobile, versatile, but also has a bit of physicality to his game. But that seems to be a priority for the Ottawa Senators this offseason and Steve Staios. They also want to bring in a top 6 forward to add to their mix, but it seems like the blue line is a priority for the Sens.
I don't think it would ever happen. I don't think this player wants to be moved at all. And he's got a no movement clause fully under his right. But Philip Hronek in Vancouver interests me there in that position. He won't need to play on either power play unit.
Yeah.
You mentioned right shot. You mentioned top 4 defenseman. And you mentioned physicality. Right? That is checked all the boxes there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But again, like I said, I don't think Philip Hronek is going anywhere. I don't think that they've inquired. I think that just fits the mold of a type of player the Ottawa Senators are looking for.
Yeah. I mean, look, if he were available, and as you said, not.
Yeah.
I believe we talked off air. He really wants to say anything.
Yeah. And I think, look, there's been conversations about making him the captain of that team. So,
yeah. So,
last 2 captains got traded. But, anyways.
Well, sidebar.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that caliber player is, I mean, that checks a lot of boxes for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's certainly one that, that caliber player, that type of player, you know, a Colto lesser extent than Hronek. Hronek's better.
I mean, look, you've got Chabot and Sanderson as your 1-2 power play guy.
Yeah.
So this is strictly you just need a right shot defenseman that can play in that top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That can complement the overall structure of Travis Green's system.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to get off your chest before
Detroit?
Oh, yes.
The Detroit Red Wings are, it sounds like they're active. Now, I know a lot doesn't get out of Detroit, and we don't know all the specifics, but we do know Kosa's name is out there. I believe there's some interest from the Oilers.
That would make sense.
There's been some discussions to some degree with Detroit, but the Red Wings are looking at being active this summer. They want to improve. I mean, a lot of teams are. We're going to hear this a lot. Like, a lot of teams want to be aggressive this summer, and I know
It's just in.
Yeah, breaking news. But they this is their time. They need to improve. They need to take that jump to make the postseason, and they're going to look to improve both the blue line and up front. The Robert Thomas conversation is probably going to continue, and so on and so forth. But Detroit sounds like they're active. We're trying to pinpoint exactly what it is. See, it's hard over there. They don't let much out.
Yeah.
We're trying to go other ways.
Kosa's name is definitely out there.
Yes,
We do know that. The Edmonton Oilers make perfect sense in that aspect of they're looking for a goalie. The thing to me, going back to the conversation about the Edmonton Oilers before we go, is you want a coach to have input on the roster,
right.
but you also have to GM your team. Like, what if the Edmonton Oilers don't have their coach by the draft and there's decisions that have to be made? Big ones.
You've got to roll.
No, yeah, you have to.
You
Right?
don't have much of a choice. So, yeah, certainly look at Detroit being active. And then Anaheim, the last one, just reiterating what we put out before and what others have been echoing as well, is Mason McTavish's name is out there because a lot of teams are calling.
Okay.
And they're looking at a right shot defenseman as well, speaking of right shots. And they've got Trouba, who's a UFA. They're going to look to re-sign him. But even if whether he stays or goes, it does sound like they want to go and upgrade that right side. We touched on it a couple of weeks ago with Parayko. I think that's a possibility, but we'll see where else they go there. But the Ducks, another team that they want to build off of the success of this season. They don't want to, like Montreal, deviate from their plan, but they feel like, okay, we can take some steps this summer.
Kids, if you want to succeed and become a right shot defenseman, and you'll go very, very far, if not, apparently, in the National Hockey League. David, thank you very much for this. Again, we are here at the Stanley Cup Final. Carolina then moving on to Vegas, but we'll be back next week, same time, same place. No, we might be back here.
We might be back here, that's right.
You get your days mixed up. We've been on the road for a while. Anyways, that's DFO Insider.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.